Hi, we're going to talk about the financial management. The first is finance. What is finance? Finance is the art and science of the administration of money. Other definition will be the set of activities that help us. They use the final research of a company to optimize their goods. The finance can be used on any business file. The finance are the ones that makes the monetary research of a company, build credit and make investments, distribute the money between departments, reduce costs, leverage, purchase, and many more. It's an essential part of a company related to accountability, but accountability only registers transactions. Finance has to do more with decisions. The principal areas of the finance can be divided in two categories. The first is financial service, and the second one is the financial management.
Financial manager. The financial manager plays a crucial role on the operation and success of the company. That's why the most important employees of any organization, big or small, should be familiar with the compromise and activities of their financial manager. The objective of the financial manager should be reach the objectives of the owners of the company. From here we can deduce that if he administrators reach the previous, they will reach at the time their own financial and professional objectives. Corporation. A corporation? Well, a corporation is a company or group of companies. Generally, they are an animals society and they have offices in different parts of the world, managing big capitals, and they are listed on a stock exchange.
Finance boss, CFO. Their function is to balance and translate the resultant in real numbers. The CFO is the one in charge to give the financial knowledge, accountant, tax, and in general analytic look on the company, trying to fulfill with the legal pertinent dispositions to taxes, comparative government, and similar.
Executive Director, CEO. The executive director of a company has the responsibility to direct it on his work. The executive director usually delegates tasks to his subordinates. The executive director is the only employee that's in contact with the board of a company, and it's responsibility of everything related to the company.
Liquidity. But what is liquidity? The liquidity in a company is a measure by their capacity to comply their obligations on a short term at the time they expire. The liquidity refers to the solvency of the total financial position. System. The financial system plays a central part on the development and functioning of the economy. It integrates principally to different intermediaries and financial markets through a variety of instruments to mobilize the saving to more productive use. The banks are maybe the most common financial intermediaries because they offer their services directly to the public and form a part on the medullary system of the payments.
The importance of the financial funding depends on a great measure of the company. In the smaller companies, the financial functions tends to economize to the accountability department. But at the time the company groups, it's necessary to create a special department for the financial area.
There's two basic differences between financial and accountability. One refers to the treatment given to the funds, and the other takes decisions. Accountant gives the attention principally to the method for accumulative reconciliation and representation of information. The financial administrator concentrates on the flow methods of cash and decision making. It's an account basic state that informs you about variations and movements of cash and the equivalent in a determined period. Their objective is to supply the ushers the financial states. Those are the bases to evaluate the capacity that the company has to generate cash and the equivalent, like their necessities of liquidity.
Public and private finance. The objectives that follow the principal difference between public and private finance. Meanwhile, the public controls the money of the citizens to optimize the spending through inversion on plans and social projects. Private manages the decision making to maximize the investments to a personal level or the shareholders. Thus, the responsibility of the public finance is the same state while the private is the own individual or the legally representative of the company.
What is the difference between sole proprietorship and a corporation? The first is business owned by one person. By one person. And corporation is a legal person distinct from owners and a resident of a state. The advantage and disadvantage of the first advantage is to start single owner keeps it taxes one's personal income. Disadvantage of the sole proprietorship is limited to life of owner, equity capital limited to owner's personal withheld, unlimited liability owner, and difficult to sell ownership and history. And the second one, advantage. Limited liability, unlimited life, separation of ownership and management. Transfer of ownership is easy to raise a capital. And the disadvantage, separation of ownership and management. A healthy problem. Double taxation, and that's it. Market. The financial market can be defined as that mechanism through which the exchange or transaction of financial assets is carried out and its price is determined, being irrelevant whether there is a physical space or not. That is, it is the physical or virtual place where financial assets are bought and sold, and where the price of each of them is put. Financial markets have a very clear purpose, which is to place all buyers and sellers in the same market. For this reason, the primary objective is the financial market is to channel the savings of people towards companies or countries that have financial needs.
Market depth. Market depth An organization may need financing, either to carry out an investment project or to manage their own activities. These entities can get the resources through a loan, applying for a loan to a bank, or through the issues of a debt instrument. The debt market is the infrastructure where debt instruments are issued and negotiated.
Instruments. They are titles that so say documents necessary to make valid the rights of a financial transaction that represent the commitment on the part of the issuer, in this case the entity, to pay to under the research, plus an hybrid of the established interest previously to the holder of the title or investor or investor on a given due date, so that a person can buy or sell debt securities. It is necessary that they go to the bank or a brokerage house, so that said institution can carry out the necessary transactions on behalf of this person. The first certificates of treasury of the Federation in Mexico were issued in 1970, and this began the debit market. Stock market. When a company requires capital, can obtain it through the issuance of new capital. With the issuance of capital, companies only make payments to investors. If the company generates profits, this makes that issuance of capital is less risk for companies but more risk for investors. The securities that represent the capital invested in a company are known as shares. The exchange of shares takes place in organized markets that operate with transparent rules and are open to the investing public. That is, any person or entity that complies with the requirement established by the state markets can participate in them. In addition to the shares, other instruments such as private or government debt securities, development capital certificates, CCT, and securities issued by infrastructure and real estate trust, fibers. Stock market instruments.
Bolsa Mexicana de Valores. Mexican Stock Exchange, a financial institution that operates concessions at law-abiding stock market, formed by companies that operate together to provide a comprehensive service for the operation and for negotiation of the remarketing of values in Mexico. The importance in the country is great because it promotes the financial savings of the organizations, and in the country, the financing of productive projects, increase in employment and wealth in the country.
Money market. The principal objective of the money market is to unify the set of bidders and planifiers of the money, conciliating the public necessity of the saving people with the financial requirement for the investment, project for inversion or work capital from a private, parastatal company, federal government, and recent state governments. In general, they trade financial instruments on mid-long term. The bond market.
Bond market. The bond market is a financial market where the participants buy and sell their titles, usually in the forms of bonds. A bond is a debt. It's a company or a country that needs money and they emitted bonds with which they hope to raise funds giving in exchange and interest, which is the famous coupon. If the coupon is higher that they can get in the investment market, so they look for what they are ready to pay more for what is worth in a nominal bonus. Where the treasury letters are are leaders in debt that expire in less than 18 months, usually in 6 or 3 or 12 months. They emit monthly on a worth of €1. State bonds, where state bonds are the titles in debt that are emitted expiring on 3 to 5 years, like the treasury letters are emitted monthly and the minimum inversion is €1. State obligations are titles in debt on a long term. They are emitted on 10, 15 or 30 years. Capital market. Capital markets are those where they negotiation financial assets with the expiring on a mid-long term and they imply a bigger level of risk. Example, stock market.
Primary market. To the operation through which a transmitter put for the first time the titles and values to obtain researches. It's known as primary market is the kind of the transactions. It's the only occasion in which they find themselves with the transmitter and the investing public. Primary collocation has a place where this stock sale new on the market.
Secondary market. Secondary market owns the little is settled via transmitter. They are on the hands of the transmitter. All contracts with the shareholders is susceptible to trading between these entities such the secondary market. The principal purpose of this type of operations is to provide liquid to those who concentrate their stock.
Well, that's it.
So thank you so much for seeing this video.
All these topics form part of financial management.
And it's finished.